So we want to start another tutorial today. You don't have Notepad++. And we need a Notepad++, and there's no network here. If we have a network, we'll just install. Okay, we want to talk about a class method and constructor. So let's make use of this one. So when we talk about class method and constructor, most of our code, when you look at like our NetBeans now, oh, you have even gone through this design. So when you look at most of our code now, let's say most of the code, we write most of the code here inside this. You understand? But as me, you now have thousands of code to write. So is it how you are going to be writing it, and to read it, it will now be difficult. So for you to separate codes that maybe each of the code has different purpose. Each of these code you want to run has different purpose to which it serves. So in that case, you need to separate them into segments called methods. So that when you call a method, that is when that particular code will run. When you call a method, then that is when the logic you define within that code will run. So even when you have it here, you can have some method defined that you will not even call them. You've seen an example where we create a class. We create a class like this. So I'm going to show you how to create a class now. A class, inside a class, we have constructor, we have method. Just like those Java class library we study, we talked about file, we talked about calendar. You see how to construct calendar, Java, array list, linked list. You saw how we couple them together to come up with something. You study their constructor and you study their method. But now you've now come to a stage where you need to create a class and you create method for it yourself. Let's take for example that okay, we have you can create a class for anything. Anything you can create a class for it. So you represent every object in the form of class. That's why we call most of this programming language object oriented. And at times you call a class an object, you can call it a class. So when you want to create a class, we have what you call access identifier. There are three major access identifier we have. We have private, we have public, we have protected. So private, public, and what? Protected. So when you look at it, most of the file, most of this class we create from our Java class, they are usually what? Public. Do you get it? So what does this public means? This one is when you say access identifier. If I name my variable a private in a particular class, so anytime I make a call to that class, it means that I won't have access to those variables that I call them private. But when it is public, it means that when I make a call to those class, I'll be able to have access to them. So we are going there, you will understand how we go about it. But now we are going to make use of a public access identifier. So when you want to create a class, as we want to create a class called animal, this is how to create. You give access identifier as a class animal. You open the brace, you close the brace. This is a class. If you want to create a class, let's say okay, computer, then you say okay, public class. This is the class. Now if you want to create a class called student, you can say okay, this is the class. Now in every class we have constructor, and the constructor will usually have the same name as the class. Constructor will always have the same name as the class, but you can create a constructor of different type. And a class will have member. So if we are talking about, let's say, okay, we have a class, we want to call it, let's say, student registration. This is my class, right? So how do you identify the member of a class? The member of the class are those parameters that is required for that particular class to function. So when you look at student registration, what do you need from student registration? Maybe we need the matric number of the student. Maybe you want to register for a code. Let's say we need the matric number of the student. We need the name of the student. We need the phone number. We need the email of the student. We can say, okay, date of birth of the student. So those variables, they are all called members of the class. So now you can decide to say private. Now when we look at it, let's come outside the class. We say we need the name. You can say, okay, first name. You can say last but name. You can say email. You can say, okay, phone. You can say, okay, department. You can say, okay, address. You can say, okay, DOB. You can say, okay, fee. That's like how much the student is going to pay. Now when you look at this, and say age, when you look at this, you have to represent each of them with the right data type. So now the first name, what data type? What data type are we going to use for the first name? String. First name, you put semicolon. If you want to create another one, last name, you put semicolon. Private string email. This one is supposed to be private. I'm still going to teach you that as email. Private string what? Phone. Yes, you can make it a string and you can equally make it int, but you know integer, when you start a number with 0, it's going to erase the first 0, so it is better you make it a string. Assuming you have a user that want to have like multiple phone number, you know you are going to separate the phone number with comma or something like that, so it is better you use a string for it. So you look at your data, you use the right data type to represent it. String department, private string what? Address, private, date of birth. What data type is that? Date, DOB, private. What data type is this? This fee. You say double or something. You are not sure. You say int. As when you are paying 5,000.2 something. Okay. You see that you use double for it. Double fee. Private. What is age? Age. So these are the members of the what class. So if I want to create constructor for this, you can create constructor with the constructor that will have all the members of the class. You can create constructor that will have just 2 members of the class. So let's try and put the matric number of the student. But most usually let's follow Java naming convention. I taught you this now. You can say first name, you can say right last name. So if you follow that, but it doesn't mean even if you leave it this lowercase, it will not. But for you, because when you've written so much of code and you want to access first name so that you know that okay, this is the convention you are using right from the beginning. So let's assume you want to create a constructor for this. If I want to create a constructor for this, I'm going to say because these fields are too much. Let's try and reduce it. Okay, okay. Let's try and create another class again. Public class. I'll call it student reg. So that we just pick some phrase there. Magic number, this. Let's try and say string full name, right? Hmm. So if I want to create a constructor for this, all I have to say is class student reg. So we want to what we want to do now is we want to make sure that our constructor has the same member. We want to create one constructor now. We can still create another constructor. So now when you create this constructor, this is constructor without argument. You can come down again. No, it's inside the class. Is your constructor must be within the opening and closing brace of the class. Look at where the class is closing. Look at the opening brace of the class. Look at where the class is closing. This is one constructor. I open the brace and close the brace. So we want to create another constructor now that will now have, let's say, matric number. So if I want to complete this constructor now, since I have argument there, I will now say this dot matric number is equal to matric. Do we understand it? Okay. Let's create another constructor again that will have all the members of the class. So and that's okay. Date do. I just want to differentiate it. Fe integer ag string matric string name. Let's expand it. We are going to move to our workspace. Can you see it now? So if I want to complete the constructor, since I've made it to have all the members of the class, I can now say this dot dob is equal to d. Don't use do as a name. You know, do is a reserved word. When you have do statement, do. Yes, do why is a reserved word. This is dot f phi is equal to what? You people, you are not responding. This dot age. What I mean is, yes, what I mean is this one is equal to this. This one is equal to this. This one is equal to what? This. You understand? That what you just do, you equate it. So that even if I make use of this one in the method, whenever I call this constructor and I pass this value there, it's going to take effect. So now let's go. Let's say this dot what? This dot matric number is equal to matric. This dot full name is equal to name. That is another constructor. So if I want to call this class, I have the right to call this class in three different ways. Is it that I call it like this, or I call it like this, or I call it like this? That's what we say. That's why when you see some class, some Java collection library, we have different type of constructor. Let's create a sample project. We have where is the, let's say, after the class method and constructor, we are moving to Java FX. So let's say class method demo. So we are going to remove this. So this is a class. Let's create a package so that we'll be able to group our project. Demo. I just want to say demo. So we are going to create a class here. When you create a class, we call it student what? So this is a class. So let's try and move this there. All our members of the class is going to be here. So we know java.ut.date. We need to import this. We need to import this java.ut.date. So what we are saying is this. This class have how many constructor? 3 constructor. This is one constructor. This is what? Another constructor. This is what? Another constructor. All within the opening and closing brace of the class. So if you want to create another constructor, maybe you want to create a constructor for let's say age and matric number. All I have to do is this. String age, string matric. So I have to say this dot what? Age is equal to age. This dot is equal to. So it means that okay. Can you read this error? Look at it. Incompatible type. String cannot be converted to integer. It means that this age is an integer here, and what we use here is what? String. So you need to change this one to integer so that they will be of the same data type. So how many constructors do we have for this class now? 4. Now, before, this is how we used to do. I can say class demo, right? We used to create public static void main, right? So if you want to create, let's say date, we can say this is equal to new what? Date. The reason why we have this one is because this date was added as part of a Java class library and it has a constructor without argument, just like this guy has it. Do you understand? Okay, now look at it. Now, this is our class. This is a class that we just created now with constructor. We don't have method yet. We just have constructor. So if I want to create this class here, I want to make use of that class inside this class demo. I can say student reg, give it any name, is equal to new. So do you see now that it has how many constructor? 4, based on what we have there. That is what I'm trying to explain. This is now your custom class. Do you understand it? It means that you can call it like this. Yes, it's a class. See, those class string, the what do you call it? The date, they are class created that has been added as part of the Java class library. Look, when you look at this Java class library, is those class they are part of what we have on the JDK. It's just that you are not seeing them here. It's part of what comes with the JDK. So it means that you can equally create your own class with different constructor. Do we get it? So I may decide to say student reg, pass matric number there. Say the matric number is what? String. And that's okay. 2007. Can you see it? Can you see it? And this is just the constructor. And you can create another student reg, new, decide to pass age and matric number to it. Let's just copy this matric number. I don't know if you understand it. Do we understand it? We don't have method yet. We don't have anything. But always know that we can have as many constructor as what possible. But something you need to know is this. You must not have a constructor that have the same data type here. Even though if it is not age, if it is something else and it is an integer, and this one is another thing, it is an integer, you can have, look at it, this is what I'm saying. Age, right? Let me ask, okay, string name. So this one will complain because we already have a constructor that have this a data type integer and a string. No matter the value of the string, whether age or as long as it is a string, it will not allow you. A constructor string, do you understand? Integer string is already defined in the class. So you must not define the same constructor of the same data type within the same class. But if I decide to change this one to, let's say, double f now, it will take it. I may now decide to say this dot age is equal to this dot because this double, we don't have a constructor that have the same this. Do you get it? Any question?
The same thing applies to integer and string and not.
Yes.
So what if we did integer and string? What if it was string then integer?
String, then yes, it will, because they are not of the same this thing. It will work if you change it. If you change it, yes, it will take it. You understand? The reason is, you understand, they are different. Do you understand it? So if I ask you that if you are working with the area of a rectangle, or let's say you are working with a rectangle, all you need to do is this. You want to create a class for rectangle. You call it I can call it a rect. What are the parameters of rectangle? Rectangle have length, rectangle have what? Breadth. So you can say private double length in case the length is decimal. Private double breadth. Can you see? You may not decide to create a constructor for it. So that means if you want to create a constructor, I can say public rect, right? I can say create a constructor with that argument. I will now decide to come here, double L, double B. I'm just using this, and I say this dot what? Length is equal to what? L, this dot what? Breadth is equal to what? B. Do we understand it? Do we understand it? Is it clear? Do you have any question?
No,
Okay. So if I give you something that, okay, we want to be computing student result, that you should give me a class definition of a student result. What do you think a student result will have? A student result, student what? Result. If you say, okay, name, private string what? Name, private, what will it have again? String. Matric, private string, what will it have again?
Subject.
Okay, let's say class, private string. Department, yeah, private, double test. You can say, okay, you can say test score, private double exam score, right? You can say, okay, private date, computed date, right? And so you will now decide to create constructor for it. based on what you understand. Do you understand it? But anytime you say another, that is why now we're now trying to represent every property in form of what object. That is why we call most of this language object oriented. If you are building a software for point of sales, let's say for management of a supermarket, you need to have a class for product, you need to have a class for customer, you need to have a class for your transaction, you need to have a class for the salesperson, you need to have a class for your product category, you need to have, so you need to identify that. You see, we are getting to a stage where you need to develop software and you must identify the software requirement. So if they say, oh, we want to build this software, we need this. The first thing you need to do is you do your system analysis. Analyze everything that is required. What am I going to have? What classes am I going to have? How is it going to work together? So you need to think about the actors of the application. Oh, take for example, assuming I want to build a point of sales for recording my daily sales. So what are the input? Can you just tell me the input? Just the categories of the input that is required. If I want to record in daily sales, tell me the categories of the class I'm going to create. Not the class member now, the categories of the class.
Item, the items.
I can say, okay, let's say we have a product. Huh? No, it's a members of the product, not the members of the product. Now, just tell me the categories of the class we are going to have. What?
Logistics.
Logistics in what sense?
Um, Things that are used for to convey the product, like um,
Basket
You can say expenses, because under expenses you are going to break it down. I hope you know. You can say customer, you have customer now coming in. You can say users, you have the application user, the people that will log in it. You people should just think. We are getting to practical aspect of it. Think about it. What else do you have? In manual system, say you used to record it in a book. Whatever you say, you record it in a book. You can call it transactions. You people should open your mind and think. And at the end of the record, what do? You generate a report. You don't. What again? What again? You generate report, transaction report. What do you think again that is likely to happen in your store? You didn't think. Notification. I want to get products that they are that have expired, or maybe I want to get product that is out of stock. You need to transform all these things into, this is what we call system definition. This is what we call requirement definition. You need to identify every requirement. You now create a class for them. Now, if I ask you, give me the members of this class. What are these members of this class? A product. You see, you people should even know that. Think as a software engineer now. You think as a software engineer. When you have a product, your product will have name. It will have sales what? Price. It will have the quantity you bought, the quantity you have in stock. It will have expiring what? Date. So those are the members of the product. What again? What again? You used to buy product. If you buy phone now, what and what do you use to look your phone? Specific, but you need to. Didn't you know the model of your phone? What again? What again? Hey, you can say color. You can say production. Yeah. What again? Who produced this phone? Hey, you can say maker. What again? You can say description so that you put complete description of it. Hey, this is what a product represents. So anytime you buy a new product, you need to register them under the product. And this is what database is all about. Even in database, you now create a table for product for expenses. Now, look at this. I will ask you, give me one members of the expenses. Shina. See, let me tell you, we are in a class method and construction. I don't want to rush it. That is why I don't want to go to method now. We just want to identify the members. Just open your, if I keep you, if I put you that, okay, Shina, you have to be managing this stock and you want to show me the expenses. What are those things you are going to show me? As me, you want to record it in Excel.
Amount.
Amount. Fine. Shina, give me another one. Think like a developer, think like software engineer now. Okay, Larry, what of you? The same thing with amount. Hafiz, you. No. When you say salary, you now say category. You people should think categories of that because now expenses could be salary, it could be fueling, it could be transportation, it could be then you say okay, category. You now use them now because we have a table that you now, that means you need to have another table, another class that will now have for what expenses category. What do you need to have here? If I may, what do you need to have here? Larry, open your mind and talk. This is logical reason. You need the ID to identify that categories and the name of that category. So I will now put all those categories here. I can say, okay, number one, expenses. Number one, transportation. Number two, fueling. Number three, salary. Number this, electricity. So when you want to now, so anytime you want to, didn't you see that anytime you want to input some, you want to enter record for sales, you select from drop down list, maybe categories. So you now enter that cat. So now we are talking about this man categories. What again? What do we have? You are just thinking when we have variables there. So the date that this expenses, so you don't use to record the date. What again? Hey,
Maybe the person who made it, who did it.
good. Issued by, right? What again? You are the manager. Who do you give the money to? Hey, issued to. Assuming now that you want to give exam, shey you have all this colon na so that when I look at it as okay, the categories of this transaction is what? Okay, this is the date. Oh, this is the person that issued it. This is, do you get it? And that person can have comment, right? Fine. What about customer? What will your customer have? Name, everybody say name.
Complain.
What's that? Your customer will have ID, quite alright. What is it again? Your customer will have phone number. Your customer may have email.
Address.
Your customer may have address. You don't. You are just see, your customer. If you like, you say okay, gender. You understand? So let's go. The user using the application. What will they have? They can have username, password. Don't use that. See, let me tell you. When you say login detail, it comprises username and password. You need to be specific. Username, email, phone. You just want to copy that one. Just limit it. This is grandfather. Tell me, what will your transaction have? Let me even put ID. Okay. Transit. Uh-huh. Product name. What did you transact here? Is it not? Won't you put product name? The quantity they purchase. Unit price. Amount. Uh-huh. What again? Customer name. Okay. Payment type. You understand when you say by cash, you just okay. It's payment type. So let's stop. Do you understand this? You will now begin to create class for all this. Even when you get to your database, this is what we do in database. You create tables that will represent all this information. Do we understand class and constructor now? So all these things you create under the class, they are what we call members of the class. And you need to use the right data type to denote them. Do we get it? Okay. Now let's go to method. When we are talking about class method and constructor, we have two types of method. The first method, we have two categories of method in Java. The first method is method what? With return type. The second method is what? Method without what? Return type. But both method with return type and method without return type can have argument. Argument in the sense that, look at this, they can have member defined in them. You understand? But this one is like this constructor now is a constructor without what? Argument. This one is a constructor with what? Argument. When they say how many arguments, all you need to do is count the number of the variable you define them. You know, a constructor will have the same name as the what? Class. That's why you see that the name of the constructor is always the same as what? Class. But the method will have different name based on the purpose it serves. You understand? Let's talk about method with return type. Let me give you the structure of a method. Access identifier. uh, Access identifier. Let's continue. Look at access identifier, return type, method name. You open argument where necessary, where available. We're talking a method return type. Return data. This is skeleton for the method. I taught you access identifier. It means that this access identifier can be what? Public, private, or protected. The return type, when you know what you are expecting, before you run a program, you should know that, okay, this program, I'm expecting something like this, so that you put the right return type. Your return type can be integer, it can be It can even be a class that you just created now. Method name, give your method any name, but follow the syntax of Java naming convention. The first name of a method must start with capital letter.
For method.
Yes, for method. Except the first. I will show you now. Argument, if your method has argument, put it. Return type, this is where you put the logic of your method. Okay, now let's go to that Mr. Rectangle. Let's create a method. Let's create a method that return the length of the rectangle. We are going to create another method that will return the what? The breadth of the rectangle. If I follow this convention, access what? Identifier. So that means I can say public return type. What is my return type here? Double. I can say okay, get length to be my method's name. I don't want to put any argument in. I can say return this dot what? Length. Let's create another method. Public double get. You can say okay, find breadth if you like. It depends. Return this dot what? Breadth. Do you understand it? Okay, we didn't close the brace. So let's try and call this guy under this class method. Is equal to new what? Rectangle. So let's pass the length and breadth to it to, let's say 10.1. Breadth, let's say okay 5.0. Right? If I want to get the length now, the length of this rectangle, say I can show okay system.add.re. Say you use dot operator to access the method. I can say dot get what? Length. You see, it's becoming those class we studied before. Can you see it? So if I want to get the what? I can say system.add.print get. Okay, it's find breadth. You understand? Do we get it? So now my two method doesn't have a parameter here. They don't have anything here. Do you get it? That is a method with what? Return type. I create this method. Do you notice something that the same thing applicable to, you say re dot. Can you see it? That the same way is telling you that what this one will return is what? Double. This one will call it what? Return double. Do we understand it? Okay, let's now write a method that now calculate the area of rectangle. What is the area of rectangle? What is the formula? So I can say now public double get area, right? I can say return what? This dot let times what? This dot what? Do we get it? Let's go to this man and call that method. That okay, we want to find the area of this rectangle. Okay, I can say system.out.find re.get area. Do you know that this constructor, I don't know if any of you understand, why is it, do you know why any value you pass here, it will return it here? Let me tell you. Because you already say whatever value you pass here, equate it to be what? This. Whatever value you pass here, equate it to be what? This. And whenever you now return this, it means that it's going to return what? This. Whenever you return this, it means that it's going to what? Return this. Because in your constructor, you already constructed it that whatever value you pass here, it should equate it to what? This length. You understand? The reason is you have access to this length in your method, but you don't have access to this. The value you define here is what we call local variable.
I didn't get that, sir.
The value you define in your constructor, look at it, is what we call local variable because it's not accessible to this method. We are coming to that. But you already initiate this one, which is a global variable. Global variable means that it will be accessible throughout this class. So I say, okay, this one is equal to what? This one is equal to what? This. So when you now call this constructor, you now say 10. 10 point what? 2. It means the same, we say 10.1 is equal to what? Length. When I now say length times what? Breadth, it means that 10.1 multiplied by 5.0. Do we get it? Larry,
Sir?
do you understand it?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
So let's try and see. Can you see that this area? Look at the area.
Okay.
Look at the length and then the breadth. So even say if you say this 10.1 times 5 is going to give you this. Do we understand this? Okay. Let me give one example, other example. Let's now create a class called shape. Let's call it shape. Understand? Shape. So I want to create one constructor here without argument, but always make sure that your constructor is equally what? Public.
Sir, before we move on, all these methods we are creating,
Yes.
is it only valid on this system that we create it? Like,
I don't get you.
you know, all these get
Set and get.
yes, you know this in this library, the library you show us the other time.
No, it's not in the library. You are creating this one custom manually. It's not, you can go to any, it's not in the library. This one is a custom class. You are creating yourself.
Which can only be used on the system.
Yes. Now, it's not that when you go to another somebody, no, it's not added to Java class
Just to make
library
your own work easier.
to make your own work. Now, look at it. Can't you see now that we are grouping our code little by what? Little. You don't know why I created this shape now. We don't want to define the member under the class. You know, before we define the member under the class. This shape, I want to get the area of the circle. I want to get the area of what? Rectangle. I want to get the area of perimeter of rectangle and so if you want to get the area of the circle now, what are the what are the members of the circle? Radius and pi, right? Radius and what? Pi. You know, that was why I took you to this, so that when you understand what you want to do, you need to identify the members. So radius and what? Pi. So I already know that there is tendency that it will return into something with decimal point. So I will use double to represent it. And I say, okay, public double get circle area. So what does it take? Radius. Radius could be integer, it could be what? Double. So let's say double radius. So I'll now return, is it not pi r squared?
Yes, sir.
Pi r squared. Radius times what? Radius times. Look at how to get pi in programming in Java. Math.pi. It will give you the value for pi. Do you get it? So it means that anytime you pass a radius here, it will return the area of the circle. So if I want to get for rectangle now, I can say okay, double get rectangle area. All I know, okay, I know it take the length, it take what breadth. So return what L times what. You know, it's no more this dot because I didn't define it here. What I'm trying to infer here is that we can have a method with what argument. Do you understand it? So if I want to get the perimeter of a rectangle, it's going to be public double. Let's say here is use double get rect peri. Is that correct? What does it take? Is it going to take L breast? Shey used to say 2 into bracket. It's now be 2 times L plus what? Because we don't have 2 into brackets. You know, in a mathematics, anything bracket is multiplication. So I want to give you this so that we not okay. Let's try and create another class and test it. So probably certain void me. Right? I can ask a shape is equal to new what? If I want to get the area of a rectangle now, I can say sp dot get circle, right? If I put 20.1 there, it means that it's going to get me the area of a circle. That's the method. Can you see it? If I decide to change it, it will still get me the area of a circle. Can you see it? Because I have created this method. This method will now be used. I can call this class anywhere within my project. Anytime I want to get the area of a circle, I just pass the value to return the area of a circle. So you may now decide to say, okay, you create a program where you allow people to enter the radius of a circle so that you compute the area. Do you get it? No. Whenever you want to work, if you don't know the formula, check for the formula. Look, somebody wants to give us some that we should build a Sage software. Sage software. We are meeting them tomorrow. But it's not all the functionality I know. I don't know how to do most of those calculations. All I have to do is I need to meet the people doing the accounting in manual this thing. You understand it. Then you tell me how you want it to work. Then we will now transform it. So if you need rectangle, just pass this. If you need what? Perimeter, just pass this. If I need perimeter of a rectangle, sure we can still call it. I will give you tax now. sp dot get say rectangle perimeter. I can say okay 2.0 to 5.0, right? What is that? 10, right? No, 14. 5 plus 4, 7 times 2. Do you get it? So we're on the track. So we are going to stop here so that we'll be able to give you tax. But what the tax I'm going to give is this. You should go and find the area of a cylinder. What again? What shape do we have again?
Pyramid. Look, a pyramid was squeezing.
You write a method. You write a method that whenever I put the right member, it will return. Okay, look at this.
Your pyramid.
You look for it. Go and check for the this. Go and check it on. You know, cylinder has two. What do you call it? the one when the top this one is closed, whenever go and look for the method.
Okay, like if you find the area, the perimeter.
Yes, I can say I may decide to say okay, get cylinder closed area, get cylinder open area. Just use any name you like.
But sir, you have to egg of one history.
Okay.
How about that?
Ká má dàrú lọ ṣe.